Hey, I'm Chris. Welcome to the Runge workshop. This is my latest creation, the R2, and I'm so excited to finally share it with you guys. So the R2 is number 9 in the lineage of my creations, but what makes it so different from the earlier cars is a more modern drivetrain underneath. We've used modern suspension, modern brakes, wheels, and then the aesthetic design is far, far different from anything I had done before. This was the first sketch that I had ever done of the R2, and you can see so many different design inspirations coming into this. Exotic, Le Mans prototype, and really exaggerated, almost cartoonish feeling. In my mind, that would be kind of the look of the supercar that I would want to build someday. Once I established that and had a good idea of what I wanted to do, I then brought in Alberto, who has a little more of a formal design standard, and we actually started to really refine the design idea and fine-tune all of the little details to try to make them work with the chassis that we were going to use. Once we refined those details and nailed down really a lot of the shape and the scale of the car, we were able to turn it into an actual illustrated rendering, and that's where the final renderings came in and really brought the whole car to life, giving it color, giving it feel, and really a lot of character. So we had these drawings, we had the idea and the vision, but we didn't really have a way to pull this thing off. So everything got sidelined for several months. And one day a gentleman called me interested in commissioning a piece of work, and I showed him these drawings and he fell in love with it. And so we were able to start the process of bringing this idea to life. I want to show you guys more detail of what went into building it and what makes it so special. So let's take a closer look at the mechanicals in the rear of the car. Starting with the wheels, the rears are 11 by 18 inch speed lines from Tech Art. So we wrapped the Tech Art wheels in Michelin Pilot Sports. These are 295/30/18. We've taken this Porsche wheel, we've got it mated to Brembo disc brakes that would be fitted to mid-80s Porsche. To translate that into the CVs that we're running, we had to build custom milled aluminum uprights. And thanks again to Kerry Hines, who was able to get these things fitted and working just perfectly. From there, we've got coil-over suspension, so it's height adjustable, and then we can adjust the ride dampening as well. Aligning the rear end is done through these two trailing arms, so you can really get this thing fine-tuned right where you want it. We went with a 3.6 liter 911 engine from a 1995 Carrera, so it's a non-varioram unit. We've updated it with GT intakes, individual throttle bodies, Bosch fuel injection, and then a Motec engine management. So that was a lot of work that went into getting this engine producing a little bit more power. I would say it puts out about 320 horsepower right now versus the 290 that it would have been from the factory. The engine is placed midship, and it's mated to a Porsche 915 5-speed gearbox. From there, we went with 3-into-1 headers. So each bank has its own exhaust, and then I used a Fab-Speed exhaust system on the way out, which gives it a great tone. So the engine is air-cooled, or as many know, oil-cooled. It holds about 14 quarts of oil, and we have dry sump systems, so the oil tank is off to the side. Then we run an oil cooler up in the nose of the car. We've also opted to go with a 12-volt air conditioning system. For a cabin this size, it works really well to keep it cool and comfortable, and really makes a pleasant driving experience in warmer weather. While we're looking at the mechanical stuff, let's take a look at what's underneath the front end. So for the front of the car, I went with an 8.5 by 18 Speedline wheel from TechArt, 225 40 18 tires. Again, we've got the Brembo disc brake mated to the custom milled uprights, and then an adjustable coilover suspension with your traditional A-arm type setup. We also used rack and pinion steering, so it's super responsive, handles great, and you know, it's a light car, so it already turns pretty easy, but the rack and pinion really helps out with that. For the lighting on the car, I had to come up with a very shallow way to get high beam, low beam, and fog lights built in. So I found these super low profile projectors, and I built a custom frame on the back side. And then I designed this shield and kind of Frenched in the different openings for your headlight, fog light, turn signal, and then sensors on both sides. So I also have down in the oil cooling ductwork here, sensors that are built in for operating the vehicle as well. In the front of the car, we have a small storage area. I'll show you here. And this has just enough space for a small travel bag. And then you have access to your brake reservoir here, and fuel pump and whatnot is housed down under here. Your oil cooler is also underneath this area. Here you can see just a small amount of space. And then tucked up underneath the dash, we have an 11-gallon fuel cell. The interior on the R2 was really just designed to be simple and purposeful. You've got your basic gauge set, so speedometer on the right, tach in the middle, and then fuel level, engine temp, oil pressure, battery, high, low beam, and signal on the left. For shifting, we've got the 915 gearbox, but I did install a Wevo short shift kit, and that helps to give it a little bit more of a sporty feel. You don't have that long throw like you would with the 915, and it also feels really engaged when you're dropping it into each individual gear. It just really connects, whereas the 915 for me kind of felt long and lethargic, and so I really like how this feels and the character it adds to the driving experience of the car. On the dash, we've got very simply, again, your ignition key on. You've got your horn button, headlights, fog lights, and the AC control switch. Wipers and signals function from the column stalks right here. The rest of the dash and what you see in front of you up here is pretty much clear. You've got this long, drawn out windshield. That's kind of a dramatic feeling when you're sitting in the cockpit. Up above here, we've got fan control for your AC fan and fresh air vent. You've got your backup camera, also rear view control here. And then in the overhead, you have all of the alarms for your sensors that are both placed in the front and the rear of the vehicle. So you have both audible and visual alarms that will light up or make sounds to let you know when the sensors go off. Outside of that, you've got just the raw aluminum headliner here, and we've got our GPS unit up on the A-pillar for the speedometer. Also fresh air vents that are built into the windows here. Outside of that, I mean, you're pretty much just surrounded by this cool shaped shell that delivers the driving experience. I'm just going to try to hit this. When I sit in the cockpit of the R2, it almost feels like you're in some sort of a fighter jet. I was amazed at, first of all, the power. This car weighs under 1,800 pounds. With 320 horsepower, it's really an exciting experience. I think what's so special about it, though, is the shape of the cockpit, the windshield, the fenders out front, and of course, the handling and power to weight. It just makes for a very refined driving experience. At almost any point, you can downshift and you can rock it. It's hard to relate it to another car that I've driven. You feel like you aren't even close to reaching its limits in cornering, in speed. While filming this video, we ran the car up to about 70–75% of its full capabilities. So I'm still not there yet, but I feel completely satisfied with how far we've pushed it to make this production and give you guys a sense of what it's like to drive this thing. I'm proud of it. It's a huge step from the previous builds, from 4 cylinders to this being the first 6-cylinder build that I've done. Of course, all the more modern suspension, braking. It has really come together to be exactly what we were aiming for, from the mechanical to the aesthetic side of it, putting together this package of what a hand-built, homemade supercar might have been in the late 80s, early 90s, using traditional coach building techniques and aesthetics in the raw. The car proved to be challenging. It took me over 4 years to build. I finally have taken it out, got a lot of miles on it, and I'm in love with this car.